Listen, I know there are a lot of questions about the traffic citation that we issued and the warning citation that we issued. And our preliminary assessment of this traffic stop indicates that the police officer, who's a 14-year veteran, issued the traffic citation because he had probable cause to do so. He saw enough, he observed enough that led him to believe that he had good enough probable cause to issue a citation for an unsafe lane change. Our preliminary assessment also reveals that that same officer was operating a marked patrol car whose speedometer, was not calibrated. He didn't have radar, and the time period that the officer had on the beltway to establish a good pace of the vehicle that he eventually stopped didn't exist. In other words, the police officer did not have enough time and space to establish a pace of the car that he eventually pulled over. So our police department has a self-assessment review process that's been in place for several years now, and we call it the Executive Review Panel. The Executive Review Panel reviews all critical incidents, and because this incident has garnered community concerns regarding the police department's performance, we're convening that Executive Review Panel early next week, and we're going to assess, review the entire incident. Our newly appointed Inspector General, Carlos Acosta, is part of that Executive Review Panel, and ultimately the Executive Review Panel will submit a report in a timely fashion to the Chief of Police. I can take a few questions, Pat.
Did the camera in the police officer's car indicate that at one point he was going 105 miles an hour?
Yes.
And was her car ahead of his when he was doing that?
The police officer was traveling on 495 southbound. He saw a vehicle that he believed was making unsafe lane changes and driving at a high rate of speed. When that police officer initiated his emergency equipment, the speed of the police officer is automatically displayed on the in-car camera. The in-car camera speed did indicate 105 miles an hour. That was the speed the officer was traveling in an effort to catch up with the violator's vehicle.
Wouldn't that indicate that she was going in excess of 100 miles an hour?
It would give the police officer more than enough reason to begin a pace. In other words, if I want to pace your speed, I have to be able to testify in district court that I began my pace at point A and I ended my pace at point B, because the violator's vehicle exited the beltway at a point in time that was before the officer had that opportunity to establish that good pace. That's why the officer felt that he did not have enough probable cause to issue the violator a ticket for her speed. He did, as I mentioned, feel that he had more than enough probable cause to issue a citation for the unsafe lane change that he observed.
How long did it take for her before she stopped for him?
The length of the time that's captured on the in-car camera is going to be under review early next week. We do know that the officer first initiated his emergency equipment on the beltway, and we do know that that traffic stop was eventually effected on Branch Avenue.
Did the county council member's status as a public official come into play in any way in how this was handled?
Well, certainly that's why we're here. On February 22nd, the Prince George's County Police Department issued 323 citations to motorists in Prince George's County. That's just in one day. The fact that a county council member was stopped for traffic violations, we realize, the community realizes, that they have an expectation of their police department not to afford special treatment. Preliminarily, we don't believe that this police officer afforded anyone any special treatment, and in fact, we do know that he issued a $90 citation to the council member for her unsafe lane change. The review process that's in place will review this incident in its entirety under the direction of our newly appointed Inspector General to put all those concerns that have been articulated either from the media or the community. We want to address them. We have a process to address them, and that process is underway.
Were there additional officers?
How much would a ticket normally be going, let's say, 105 miles an hour?
I haven't written a ticket in a while. I don't have that figure at the top of my head. But if I can answer that question by saying this, anytime a police officer writes any motorist a citation, he or she has to be able to raise his or her right hand in a court of law and testify that he or she can substantiate the speed of the motorist. If your vehicle is not calibrated, if you don't have radar, and if you are unable to establish a good pace, then officers should err on the side of caution and not issue citations when it's not appropriate to do so. So the fact of the matter is that the officer did believe he had probable cause for one citation. He had the courage to issue that citation, and he felt that he didn't have quite enough probable cause to issue a citation for the speed, so he elected to issue a warning citation.
Were there additional
Can I get-
officers involved in the
Chief,
stop?
at the stop, was a revolver pulled? Did the officer have to pull his gun as he was making this stop?
Yeah. The actions of all the police officers who were on the scene of that traffic stop will be under review by the executive review panel early next week.
You can't talk about what happened at that point? You
the-
obviously know.
Now, I don't know how I would obviously, you would think I would obviously know. There's the executive review panel. That process will review everything from A to Z that took place with the observations, with the traffic stop, and that's going to take place, as I indicated, in short order. So any questions about the actions of the police officers on the scene of the traffic stop, they're going to be subject to that review process, and that review process is underway.
The speedometer wasn't calibrated. What does that mean? Does that imply a defect in the cruiser?
It doesn't apply a defect in the cruiser. The police officer who initiated this traffic stop is assigned to an administrative job on the police department. The patrol officers who patrol the streets in Prince George's County calibrate their speedometers every so many months. And they calibrate their speedometers so when they stand up in a court of law and testify that they paced a motorist at a certain speed, they can do so by indicating that their speedometer is on board. Their speedometer is accurate. That police officer doesn't have a job that would prompt him to routinely calibrate his speedometer, and that's why his speedometer wasn't calibrated.
How do Ms. Toles' prior violations for traffic violations factor into this officer's discretion in issuing this particular ticket?
I don't believe they factored in at all. I don't know how the officer would necessarily be aware of any prior violations.
They're able to look that up, aren't they?
I don't know if he did or not. And again, that's something that the review process is going to address. Brad?
Can you characterize the councilwoman's behavior and comments towards your officers on the scene? I understand this was a fairly lengthy stop. It was not just pull over and write a ticket.
No, I cannot characterize that interaction. Again, that interaction is going to be under review. The two main points that I'd like to, again, make today and reiterate right now is the fact that the officer did write a citation because he felt like he had probable cause to do so. He issued a warning because he felt like he didn't have probable cause to issue a warning citation. And secondly, I want to ensure the community that the Prince George's County Police Department has a review process in place that now involves our Inspector General that will review any and all critical incidents that the Chief of Police deems necessary for our review.
How many additional police cars were there?
I'm unaware.
But more than one, for sure?
More than one, yes.
Okay.
Given the circumstances of the way the officer described her driving, couldn't this be considered reckless driving?
Well, in hindsight, certainly it could be. And again, that decision to issue one citation that carries a $90 fine and issue another citation that's simply a written warning is under review by the Executive Review Panel. I think it's fairly accurate to say at this preliminary stage that the officer certainly didn't hesitate to issue a county council member a citation that carries a $90 fine and some points when he had the probable cause to do so. Brad?
Can you amend could you go back and ticket? Did you turn a warning into a ticket later on?
Yes.
Is that something that will be considered during the review?
Everything is under consideration right now.
And might there be, for instance, if the video shows some other type of violation, that you reserve the right to perhaps come up with other charges if the video indicates it? Is that fair to report?
The Executive Review Panel operates under the benefit of hindsight. So as the review panel meets and with the input from our Inspector General, there will ultimately be a report that is written and submitted to the Chief of Police, and that report will contain recommendations, if any recommendations come out of that panel.
And the review panel is made up of just officers or?
The review panel is made up of the Inspector General. It's made up of me. I'm the chair as the Assistant Chief. It's made up of the Deputy Chiefs of Police. It's made up of the Commanders of Internal Affairs. We have a commander assigned to the Office of Legal Affairs. and we have a commander that's on the panel from our Training and Education Division. Pat?
Does the camera in the car show the time the pursuit started and the time it ended? In other words, this incident started at what time and for how long the pursuit started?
I'm not sure exactly how long that lasted. Again, that will be part of the review process. We're at a preliminary stage right now, and we thought it was important at this preliminary moment in time to communicate to the community that we're aware of the scrutiny and the concerns that this incident has brought with it, and from that we're convening a panel to address it in a timely fashion.
When can the video of the traffic stop be released?
The video is currently being held as evidence. The motorist in this case can choose to, can elect to contest the traffic citation in district court, or she can pay the fine. I'm not sure which route she's going to take yet, but while that decision is being made, until we receive notification to the contrary from the district court, the videotape is being held as evidence right now in a pending traffic case.
And once that's done, it's released, correct? Once the court case is...
Once there's a disposition with the traffic citation case, then that videotape will be made available. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.